we're gonna get into chapter 4. Nice little prequel. Now that the lush, protected sanctuary of Eden is locked behind them, Genesis 4 drops you right into the gritty reality of history as we know it. This chapter introduces the very first generation of human beings born out of the dirt, Adam and Eve's sons, Cain and Abel. All right, Genesis 4. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord, and Abel he also brought the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and his offerings, but unto Cain and to his offerings he had not respected. And Cain was very wroth, and his continuance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? Why is thy contuance fallen? If thou doest well, thou shalt not be accepted. If thou dost well, thou shalt not be accepted. And if thou dost not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. What? And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth, and why is consumed fallen? If thou dost well, thou shalt not be accepted. If thou dost well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou dost not well, sin lieth at the door, and to thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. In Eden, abundance was given. Food literally grew from the trees, and there was no cause for competition. In chapter 4, everything changes. Survival now requires grueling work. Two brothers split the workload to keep the family alive, creating a classic human division of labor. Cain takes after his father's new sentence, and becomes a farmer, working the stubborn soil. Abel looks to the animal kingdom and becomes a shepherd because they're living in a world limited resources and high stakes. A brand new human emotion enters the biblical narrative for the very first time: rivalry. First ritual. Without any explicit instruction manual from the text, the brothers decide to create a ritual. They bring an offering to God. Cain brings the fruit of the ground, and Abel brings the finest firstborns of his flock. All right, so Cain and Abel have both brought offerings to God. Abel's offering was looked upon with favor, but Cain was not. The text does not tell us exactly why, though ancient readers understood that Abel brought the absolute choice firstborns of his flock, while Cain just brought some fruit. Cain doesn't try to fix his offerings or ask God for advice. Instead, he falls into a deep, silent rage. He is wroth, furious, and his continuance is fallen. He's brooding, looking down at the dirt, refusing to make eye contact. Before Cain can act on his anger, God steps in. He doesn't yell at Cain. Instead, he asks him a question to get him to look inward. Here's the deep context behind God's warning in verses 6 and 7. The final lines of verse 7 sound familiar. It's because the author is deliberately using the exact vocabulary from the curse in Genesis 3:16. And thy desire shall be thy husband, and he shall rule over thee, and unto thee shall be his desire, thou shalt rule over him. In chapter 3, the words describe a broken relational power struggle. Here in chapter 4, God uses the exact words to create a chilling metaphor. He personifies sin as a physical entity with a mind of its own. The phrase sin lieth at the door sounds a bit passive in modern English, but the original Hebrew paints a terrifying picture. The Hebrew word lieth is rasvet. Forgive me. In ancient Near East, rasvet shared its linguistic roots with the Adachian word rabisu, which was a specific term for crouching demon or predatory beast waiting in an ambush right outside a person's tent or doorway. God is telling Cain, your resentment and jealousy aren't just private emotions. You have opened the door of your heart. And right now, a wild predator is crouched on your welcome mat, completely silent, tense, and waiting to swallow you whole. The phrase, if thou dost well, shall thou not be accepted, carries a powerful meaning in Hebrew. A more literal translation of accepted is lifted up. God is telling Cain, if what you do is right, your face will be lifted up again. You won't have to look at the dirt in shame or anger. You can stand tall. God is giving Cain a profound psychological choice. He acknowledges that Cain is feeling a dangerous mix of rejection and envy, but he reminds him that his destiny is still in his own hands. Abel's success did not ruin Cain's life. Cain's reaction to it is what threatens to destroy him. God reminds him that his destiny is still in his own hands. Abel's success did not ruin Cain's life. Cain's reaction to it is what threatens to destroy him. The ultimatum, master it or be mastered. The verse ends with a direct challenge, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. God's warning to Cain that sin's intense desire is to overcome, master it, and dominate him. But God doesn't say, well, too bad, you're doomed. He explicitly tells Cain, you must rule over it. You must rule over your desires. This is the ultimate statement on human free will and the moral responsibility in the Old Testament. God looked at man who is actively cooking up a murder plot, tells him, you're not a helpless victim of your emotions. You have power to tame this beast, close the door on it. And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth? And why is thy continuance fallen? If thou dost well, thou shalt not be accepted. And if thou dost not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not, I am my brother's keeper. And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood cruelleth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth. From thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore, whoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken upon him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Meguhiel, and Meguhiel begat Methuselah, and Methuselah begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him two wives, and the name of the one was Ehad, and the name of the other Zilhah. And Anahah and bare Jabal, and he was the father of such dwelling in tents, and such haveth cattle. And his brother's name was Jabul, and he was the father of such handled as the harp and organ. And Zilhah, she was bare Jabul Cain, instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Jabulah Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Anahah, Zilhah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearketh unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth, for God, she said, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And Seth to him there was born a son, he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. Interesting.